Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar all about SharePoint out the box intranet design versus designing on an intranet product like Involv. Today we're going to talk about a few different bits and pieces in the intranet design process. So we'll start off with an introduction to me so you know who's speaking. We'll do a little bit about UX design, a little bit about the intranet design process. We'll cover off some SharePoint design limitations and how you can overcome those limitations. I'll introduce you to the intranet product we use called Involv. I'll do some of its design perks, showcase some branded examples, and at the end we'll have time for any of your questions. So hi, I'm Lucy. I'm ThinkShare's UX designer. I'm responsible for crafting engaging solutions for our clients that bridge the gap between functionality and engaging design. I work on a range of products, primarily on tools like Power Apps and SharePoint, but nothing in the Microsoft 365 realm is out of touch for me. So I personally like to get involved with the design process as soon as we onboard a client. I like to make sure I know their business, I know their challenges, and most importantly, I get to know their users. So here's a little bit about the UX design process. So user experience design is the process design teams use to create products that provide meaningful and relevant experience to that business's users. It involves the design of the entire process from acquiring and integrating the product, including all aspects of branding, design, usability, and function. UX design really bridges the gap between a solution that makes your stakeholders happy and a solution that your users are happy to use every single day. So a lot of different companies have different approaches to the intranet design process. For us, our intranet approach typically takes the following key steps. We do this we follow this approach to ensure that both the corporate team and the users are on the same page. It helps us create an intranet that delights them both and an intranet that can be used every single day. So the key steps we follow for an intranet design process are an intranet workshop with stakeholders and users. I'll go over in a bit more detail about what this involves in the next slide. From there, we work on the creation and approval of wireframes, which are one of my favourite tools, and you'll find out why. We then build the intranet, and once that's built, we share it with the client and with the users, and we get their feedback, and we add any change requests in. After that, we go on to content editor training, which is really about training your users and those who are going to be adding to the intranet on how to use the solution. It's great for getting them familiar with the functionality and the way the solution works, but it's also great to just get them embedded in that solution from as early as possible. From there, we go live. The wonderful thing about an intranet is it's constantly changing and updating. So the stronger your foundation from this initial process, the better and longer lasting your intranet will be. So an intranet workshop. We recommend beginning your workshop with a demonstration of the solution you're planning on deploying, be that out of the box or Involv. This gives both stakeholders and users the opportunity to see the potential of their new intranets. The desired output of these sessions are to gain a key understanding of the required pages you're going to be building. So think like your home page, your Teams pages, any resource pages, organization charts, about us, whatever you can think of, you can make a page for it. The different types of content you might want to put on there can include things like Word documents or this PowerPoint, training guides, how-tos, FAQs, any branded templates. If you have templates that you prefer your users to work from, can all be stored in a nice, central, easy location. Also, if you do have time, it's a great opportunity to map out a potential homepage. Now, here's an example of what this could look like. So here's a quick look at the sort of outputs we collect from an intranet workshop. Excuse me for a second while I move this board. There we go, perfect. Nice, easy to use tool, Miro, and it helps you sort of recalibrate where you are and do little changes really, really quickly. So we start with the sitemap, so the type of pages we want. So here we've got homepage, resources, departments, news, training, and a meet the team. From there, we scroll over and we see the types of content we want. I'll zoom in here. So we've got news and insight articles, links to the tools the teams use every day, policies and procedures, links to e-learning, all that sort of stuff are things you can host on the intranet, no problem at all. And then from here, we've got requirements, so sort of notifications on policy updates. We want to disable comments. We don't want people commenting on the page. We want them using the page. Employee news submissions, staff surveys, polls, employee recognition, and that sort of good stuff. That's really the outputs you're looking for from an intranet workshop. The type of pages you need, the type of content you're going to need, and any additional requirements. So from there, we look at wireframes. I said earlier, this is one of my favorite parts of the process, and that's because here is where you lay the foundation of your successful solution. So, but what are wireframes? So wireframes are a design tool that showcase the potential layout and a functionality of a tool without any branding or design components. They show the complete potential whilst limiting any distractions. This is key in focusing in on the usability of this solution without getting caught up in the fluffy stuff. When you've been working on projects in the past, you might have came across a type of text called lorem ipsum. Now, lorem ipsum is a Latin text that designers use to fill gaps in pages where text is going to go in the future. By using Latin, you get the flow of a sentence structure the way a user would expect to see text in a solution, but you don't get stuck on the actual content. You're thinking about usability, you're thinking about design, and you're thinking about functionality. So let's take a quick look at what an example of wireframes can look like. So the tool we use for wireframing is a tool called Balsamic, but really you could use a range of different tools. As I said, these just help showcase the type of content that's going to be on the intranet without getting caught up in design. So you'll see it's a little boxy, but that's okay. We're just showcasing what's going to be in there and ensuring we get the functionality our client wants in the intranet. So here is the homepage with components sort of like the hero content, a carousel of 4 highlighted news articles, some quick links, a countdown to their next social event. We'll jump onto the news page. Here you can see sort of similar content going on here, but it's keeping all of that news in one place, which again is really handy for your users. We've got a bit about their company, so who they are, their key people, an organization chart, some regional leaders. We've got a HR and recruitment page. We typically only mock up one department page at a time, just because you want to make sure you get the page format, function, and tools on there before you go ahead and duplicate that page out for all the different teams on your site. It just makes the design process a little bit easier. And internal resources. As you can see, there's no bells and whistles. It's just, it is what it is, but it keeps everyone in the project on the same page. So once you've got your wireframes in place and agreed with your users and your client or your managers and your bosses, that's when you start to do the build process. So whatever intranet option you decide to go for, whether that's out of the box or a product like Involv, that design process should be the same. So now let's take a look at both of those solutions. I've branded both an out-the-box intranet and an Involv in ThinkShare's brand guidelines, just to show you how they look on different solutions. So we're going to start with SharePoint and let's get into it. So we're going to get started here with a whistle-stop tour of a SharePoint out-the-box intranet. This is one I've designed on the basis of the process that I mentioned earlier. So I hosted a workshop with some internal stakeholders and some users, and from there we built off some wireframes, and this intranet is the output from those sessions. So you'll hear among designers and some intranet naysayers that SharePoint has some design limitations. And whilst there are a few limitations, I would say you can still build a very visually engaging solution on the tool. It just typically requires a little bit of build experience, a little bit of confidence, and of course, with all things Microsoft, a little bit of trial and error. Our workshop with our users concluded that our homepage should feature things like company news, client wins, our latest case study we've published, our team's most used tools, upcoming event, weather where you are, the latest videos, and some Microsoft forms. So these are all things that SharePoint has in its web part options. So if we were to edit this page, I'll show you the range of web parts you can put in to a SharePoint out-the-box intranet. Just bear with me, sometimes it can be a little bit of a pest, but we just click here and this will open up the library of web parts. These web parts can range from anything like the hero bar that you see at the top there. This features hero content and it is a static web part, so it does mean that's something that your content editors have to keep up to date, but it is quite eye-catching and it's a good way to keep your users engaged. It features things like quick links. We've used that below for your top tools, news, highlighted contents, buttons, call to actions, Microsoft Streams, spacers, YouTube links, and so much more. So I'll just go back to republish now and we'll get started. So here you'll see that we've used that hero content to really showcase our latest articles, our top case study, and our recent client win. This is just a nice way to get your users on board with what's happening inside the company. And it's a great way to keep everyone on the same page. And it's a nice thing to stay on top of and keep changing. So we wanted to use your top tools, which just shows the things our team access every single day and makes the intranet a place that they want to go to so they can get to where they need to go quickly whilst in the flow of their work. As we scroll down, you'll see that I've used color sections to separate out different areas just to add a little bit of separation and make it look more like an engaging, well-designed website, which really we want the intranet to feel like. So here you've got ThinkShare's latest news, the weather where you are. With our users being distributed across the UK, we thought it would be valuable and a nice talking point if we can all compare how miserable the weather is where we are. We've added in a Microsoft form here, just again, so it's involving our users and making the page a little bit more dynamic. And then we've added a video for our last webinar, which was hosted by our CEO, Andy Hodges. And of course, a little sign up for our next webinar, which you're on just now. From there, we've also built out a news page specifically just to get all of that content in one area that's nice and central and easy to access with all of our case studies and our webinars and our client wins. From there, we jump into resources where you can see we've got all of the, again, we've got everyday essentials. So that's other tools that they might use every day. We've got FAQs, libraries, most viewed documents, policy documents, templates, a big call to action, and another document library. When we spoke earlier, I said SharePoint's design is notoriously limited. When you're looking here, you couldn't tell. In our brand, we've incorporated these little archways, which are a design component just called Arch. They bring colour and intrigue into the images, and they bring our brand into the intranet. These are just images we've used to link to key documents, but you can see with a little bit of creativity, you can make a SharePoint out-the-box intranet that really works for your users. Again, we've then structured it so each team has their own page. Here we've got the marketing team, we've got marketing tools, FAQs specific to them, news specific to them, and their most recent documents. Again, nice and handy, easy to access, and all in one place. We've done the same for the IT team, creating tools specifically for their roles. So you'll see the addition of things like Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI, as well as specific FAQs, news articles, documents, and all that good stuff. From there, we've got a Meet the Team page, which again follows the same sort of approach with a little bit about who we are and an organisational chart and more. So now I might be biased because I created this, but to me this doesn't look like a solution that was built with limited design tools. This looks like an intranet that was built with its users in mind and is designed to help them do their job in a more effective and efficient way. So now you've had a quick tour of SharePoint, let's take a look at Involv. In terms of UX design, the place Involv really shines is creating a more personalised experience for your users. So here we see a solution that bridges the gap between what corporate wants and a solution that does definitely keep the user in the flow of their work. So we start off with the same type of intranet design. We've got what's new in Microsoft 365, which is our article we post every single month. We've got weather where you are, again, keeping it a little bit more personal for our dispersed workforce. We've got my tools, but one of the things you will notice that's a little bit different here is how do I. So how do I is a personalised FAQ section that helps answer questions your users ask all of the time. More importantly, as you scroll down, you've got my documents. So these are the things your users have actively been working on, and it helps them access it from a nice central location, keeping them in the flow of their work. As you scroll again, we've got that call to action for register for our latest webinar, which you're currently on. My OneDrive files, again, keeping them in the flow of work. Another web part that's completely unique to Involv, sorry, is upcoming birthdays, where you see your colleagues' birthdays, when they are, who's next, all that good stuff. Excuse me, my plans are still loading for the day, but if you continue to scroll, you'll see client win and that Microsoft Forms web part, which we had in the other intranet as well. But again, it's just a nice place where people can submit what they're thinking, what they'd like to add, and have their say in the way your business works. Again, as you continue to scroll, you'll see my calendar, which brings through what that person can expect to happen for the day. And it's just a nice personalised homepage that both works for the company and for your users. Now, as we move through the intranet, you'll see we've kept similar vibes and approaches to what we've done in SharePoint out the box. We've kept in those tools. These tools are specific for our marketing users. We've got a little deployment ready here, which again is unique to Involv. It's a notification system that means if we have any updates specific to marketing, so for example, if a marketing day in the office was cancelled, we can show that to the users on the intranet, and we can also send it as an email, as a Teams notification, or as a text message, meaning your users get up-to-date information and updates and are able to know whether or not to come into the office, saving them a bunch of hassle if they didn't have to come in. We've kept those FAQs there, we've kept the news section in, we've added a document library, any relevant jobs that are coming up, some upcoming events, and the ability to search through their files for what they need to work on that day. So we'll move on to the news page, and again you'll see a similar sort of setup to what we had in the out the box intranet, but we have this nice news section where you can filter by department or category, making it easier for your users to find the articles they're looking for. We've kept that upcoming event in there, and we've added all of our case studies at the bottom so they're easy to find and easy to navigate through. As you go to the resource page, you again are greeted with a similar setup to the out the box intranet, with those everyday essentials, the FAQs, the documents, our templates, and another document library that can be tailored to your users or to your teams. If we jump into the training tab, you'll see again, we've got those links to e-learning, we've got a little bit about training opportunities, we've got some how-to PowerPoints, and we've kept those FAQs in a nice, easy to reach central location. When we move on to meet the team, I'll scroll up here, you get to see a little bit more about who we are. We've got a searchable directory, we've got a meet your manager section. We've actually embedded in here a bookings form so our team can book a meeting with their line manager while staying in the solution. So if we scroll down through that, you can book a 30-minute meeting with your line manager at a date that works for you. As we continue down, we've got a section for those who need help with a technical query. So for example, if I wanted help with Power Apps, I'd reach out to Vidya because she is a whiz And if you need some captivating content, we popped in a Microsoft form to let the marketing team know what we need to do our job well. As I've said, Involv is just a great solution for personalizing the user experience and tailoring it a little bit better to your users. Both solutions will do the job of being a good intranet, but when it comes to UX design, the experience you get with Involv is just that bit more personal. Perfect. So now you've seen both solutions, it's time to take a look and just cover off their key differences. As you've seen, you can create a well-designed and well-crafted user experience on both products if you set that proper foundation in the workshop and the wireframes. You can create functional, engaging intranets with either product, but let's look at the key differences. When it comes to web parts, Involv offers a range of web parts that go beyond standard out-of-the-box intranet design. They offer that calendar web part so we can see whose birthdays are coming up, more personal document libraries, your own calendar, all of that sort of good stuff that takes it from being a corporate intranet to one that's a little bit more personal. Theming. So you can incorporate more aspects of your brand into Involv. So for example, on SharePoint, you can add your brand colors and your brand logo, but you can't add your own font. If people work in Microsoft day in, day out, they'll be used to seeing Segoy UI, which is the typeface that Microsoft uses in SharePoint. So it might not be a big shock, but if you do want to make it more about your brand, Involv's great for that option. Personalization. You can really create a much more personalized experience for your users when you're using a product like Involv. And that is where it really shines. But when it comes to shining in that personal aspect, SharePoint really shines in simplicity. It's a really easy tool to edit and create on. If you're building this on your own and it's your first time embarking on a project like that, SharePoint's a really easy solution to do that on because you don't need to have any knowledge of CSS. Now, if you're using Involv but working with a partner, you don't have to worry about CSS at all because that's something your partner will do for you. So now we've seen both, we've understood a little bit about their key differences, a little bit about the process of designing an intranet. I'm going to open up the floor now to some questions. So if you have any, please just let me know. I'll just escape out of here so I can see the participant pane in this meeting and we'll go from there. So it looks as if our participants have been a little bit quiet today, which is absolutely okay. Sometimes you don't want to ask a question. No questions are silly, but if you do feel a little bit self-conscious, please feel free to email me on my contact details below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you'd like to see a demo in the future about how to embed tools like booking forms and Microsoft Forms on an intranet, again, just drop me a message and let me know if it's something you're interested in and I can create that for you. Thank you so much for coming today. I hope you've learned something valuable and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.